Salt Bae, who was once the social media star, is now the target of mockery. The image of a once celebrated star is now cloaked in criticism, from the time he was ignored by Messi during the World Cup to the time security stopped him at the door of the Champions League after party. He is viewed online as a representation of phony celebrity. In reality, his restaurant business, which was previously thought to be the height of luxury, is slowly getting smaller. In the United States, 5 of the 7 locations have closed. Profits in London have fallen by more than 30%, and Beverly Hills, the flagship that was once a source of pride, has formally closed. There are countless disputes at the core of it all. Bills that cost more than a car, claims that the workplace is like the Hunger Games, or ill-advised political choices that have caused him to lose favor in some of the most lucrative areas. The key question still stands: what led to the widespread fall of a 36-second salt sprinkling event that became a global meme? On the stage he created, why has a luxury icon who was once coveted by DiCaprio, Beckham, and Bruno Mars turned into a laughingstock? And what facts are still unknown to the public? This video will reveal everything. The whole picture, where wealth, notoriety, and mental health are measured on scales, as well as the price of upholding a sparkling exterior that is hollow on the inside, will be shown to you, not just the fragments that the media has broken up. Only in this video will the motivations, choices, and events that led to this series of events be completely revealed. Given the current scandals and falls, one could argue that this was an unavoidable conclusion. But we have to go back to the beginning to see why that golden radiance broke so quickly. A poor butcher named Nusret Gökçe transformed his abilities into a show in a tiny kitchen in Istanbul. In 2017, a 36-second video of him sprinkled with salt had over 16 million views within a few days of its posting, turning him from an unknown to a worldwide meme and instantly boosting his Instagram following from 0 to millions. Even Cristiano Ronaldo, Bruno Mars, DiCaprio, Beckham, and Nusret attracted the most powerful celebrities. The man who masterfully manages his image sat at his table, ate a steak plated with gold, and grinned for the cameras. Salt Bae sold more than just food, he sold experiences. With prices that may top $140,000, each meal was a lavish show. The exact thing that made him successful: an unquenchable thirst for attention and a need to be the center of attention wherever he went started to erode the golden glow that surrounded Salt Bae after years of being praised globally. In addition to fostering a brand, the height of luxury gave him the delusion that success would open all doors. And the pivotal moment of the 2022 World Cup was caused by this misperception. Salt Bae hurried onto the field like an outsider shortly after the last game, trying to take pictures with the players and take the trophy out of their hands. Innumerable cameras promptly recorded this action. Messi, who usually keeps his cool, avoided him with a chile, agitated look, and his teammates adopted the same stance. Not only was this moment repulsive, but it was also an obvious attempt to gain influence by using the tournament's content to gain widespread attention. Messi's supporters swiftly reacted on social media with scathing remarks and jeering, and Salt Bae's seeming joy only served to heighten the irony of the situation. In addition to upsetting millions of viewers, Salt Bae's impetuous move provoked an instantaneous and intense criticism from football supporters. FIFA quickly stepped in as what had once been a viral moment for laugh turned into a significant security and pitch control issue. Salt Bae was turned from a well-known figure at prestigious international tournaments into a persona non grata when an internal investigation was started and a statement prohibiting him from going to official football events was issued. The image of a man standing on the field, trying to smile while recognizing his golden aura was disappearing, was all that remained. No more extravagant receptions, no more cameras and flashing lights welcoming him. Following an investigation, FIFA has identified how some individuals inappropriately enter the field following the closing ceremony at Lusail Stadium on December 18, according to a statement from the governing body. "We'll take the proper internal action." This marked a sea change. It signaled the change from a well-liked and respected person to a laughingstock around the world. However, this occurrence is not the only noteworthy event. It was the unavoidable result of several choices. How he handled his empire, his decisions about his public persona, and his connections to fame, wealth, and power. Do you think Salt Bae's reputation would hold up and stop there following the 2022 World Cup collapse? No. The glances on the field were only the start. Another question came up when the stage lights went down. What does he really have if not viral moments? At this point, people who had previously stood by him, from celebrities to internet forums, started to speak out. This is like, even if you want to rejoice with your people, you have some wedding crash or remarks like, "I want a picture with you," on your wedding day. For instance, this is a significant occasion for the squad. And so it's like FIFA is looking into what happened and how it happened. Guys, it appears that this Salt Bae guy is quite close to FIFA president Gianni Infantino, which is why the calls are coming from within the house. Outrage broke out in the neighborhood, and many took to numerous venues to express their views. He resembles a kid attempting to blow out the candles on someone else's birthday. Why is he there at all? He ought to be in the kitchen cooking. From news sources to celebrity remarks, the critique was widely disseminated. Numerous well-known people who had previously joyfully posed for pictures with Salt Bae have since openly distanced themselves from him. Others have even made fun of the way he transformed meals into ridiculous performances. Some football players, perhaps addressing the man behind the salt sprinkle directly, implied on social media that respect cannot be replaced by celebrity. Once elevating him, the fame now turned against him. "When I was there, I did try that burger, everyone. Is absurdly costly." And the fissures showed more clearly once skepticism took hold. Unexpected stories emerged from beyond the glistening glass doors of Nusret, which was formerly thought of as a stage of luxury. Bills that raised eyebrows around the globe. A car-priced lunch that includes a few pieces of gold-plated steak. The $140,000 amount was now seen as proof of meaningless expenditure rather than a mark of prestige. Hold on, how much does the Salt Bae guy from the meme charge for his chain of restaurants? When you don't eat meat yet, spend $31,000 to meet Salt Bae. That amounts to approximately $8,500 US. To dine at a meme restaurant for $8,500? What comes next? Will Disaster Girl start selling tacos? Barbecuing alien guys? Kermit's Tea House? I can't continue like this. The amusing part is that Salt Bae isn't even the actual one. He employs imitators to work in various places. That's Paprika Bae, not Salt Bae. The money spent only created a transient social media illusion rather than an experience. There was a sense of being taken advantage of and treated disrespectfully as what was once considered luxury was now exposed. Salt Bae started to react in the midst of this surge. Quality is always affordable. The responses, however, were highly divided, as one might anticipate. Showing this off when there are starving people all around the world is dishonorable. What an idiot. Another individual wrote, "You're right," in a mocking manner. This is pricey, but quality is never. The stories from within were even more alarming, if the outrageous costs made consumers feel deceived at the dinner table. Because there was more than just a coating of gleaming metal underneath each slice of gold-plated steak, there was perspiration, effort, as well as unknown tales from past workers. People who had previously been behind the kitchen fire started talking about their personal stories. Employees never knew if they would be fired during a shift, creating an atmosphere reminiscent of the Hunger Games in real life. A difficult working atmosphere was mentioned by some former employees. There were reports of late-night shifts without overtime compensation, bosses refusing tips, and even claims of passport confiscation. Although these facts have not been independently confirmed, they add to the brand's contentious image. In the meantime, it was discovered that certain restaurant locations had either purposefully reduced operating expenses to the point that patrons were forced to eat in sub-freezing temperatures or had broken food safety laws. The promise of gold-plated opulence contrasted sharply with these realities. All of this presents a different image of an empire that appears brilliant on the outside but is hollow on the inside. Ultra-processed meals are unhealthy, according to nearly all nutritionists and health experts, but there is a strange exception in the carnivorous community. I wanted to let you know about it. I believe this will be of great interest to you. As a result, a group of academics developed a technique for classifying and ranking highly processed meals. We will examine this issue, a Ministry of Health spokeswoman wrote in a statement. Requests for comment were not immediately answered by restaurant representatives. A chain reaction was swiftly set in motion by the claims, grievances, and outrageous invoices that were making the rounds on social media. Nusret started to deteriorate from a posh destination for the rich. 5 of the 7 Nusret stores in the United States were reportedly forced to close by July 2025, including the Beverly Hills location, which was formerly regarded as the flagship store and a representation of the brand's opulent status before it formally shut down in June 2025. Revenue in London fell by more than 30%, which was obviously a result of customers turning away. According to a survey by the industry intelligence firm Propel, income at Nusret in Knightsbridge, one of the busiest and wealthiest districts of London, dropped by 31% by the end of the previous year to £180,000 per week. As a result, the once gold-encrusted empire, which was thought to be unbreakable, now showed its obvious flaws. No longer a sanctuary for celebrities or a posh check-in location. Rather, there are news stories about diminishing earnings, closing notices, and the chilly void of places that were once ablaze with lights. These figures are not limited to business. They bear witness to a brutal reality. If regarded as Salt Bae's greatest assets, celebrity and wealth are insufficient to sustain a collapsing empire if trust is lost. In actuality, the current crisis's string of closures is not arbitrary. Not from the stake itself, but from the very companions Salt Bae decided to align with. They are the outcome of a crack that existed long before a crack. Do you recall the 2018 incident? The biggest economic catastrophe of the decade was then engulfing Venezuela. The value of the local currency has dropped by more than 1 million times. For a few loaves of bread, millions of people had to wait in line for hours, and many families couldn't afford to buy milk for their kids. At that precise moment, President Nicolas Maduro and his spouse were shown on a video being served gold-plated steak by Salt Bae. In light of Venezuela's crisis, this striking disparity provoked indignation, according to a number of international news outlets. As a result, the 2018 scandals left a scar that was difficult to recover from. To be fair, though, despite the criticism, there is still another reality. Instead of coming from a boardroom, Salt Bae came out of a kitchen. A familiar rhythm is still described by many who met him behind the counter. His hand flicking the salt shaker like a practiced reflex, his knife following the grain. A butcher's passion for his work was what made him an iconic figure. The public outcry did not cause it to disappear. But that love changed when it grew too deeply entwined with wealth and celebrity. Over time, the brand's passion for the kitchen evolved into a passion for the stage. Harsher spotlights, a bigger audience, and the requirement that every meal be a performance. Fame followed, money flowed in, and the brand's life, which was based on consumer trust and team resiliency, was pushed to its breaking point. Every decision became performative after that. A dish had to be visually appealing in addition to being good. It was not enough for a moment to be polite, it also needed to be shareable. At this pivotal moment, the once lauded moves turned into fuel for subsequent collapses. His passion for the art gave him the self-assurance to show up anywhere people congregated. However, every move ran the risk of crossing boundaries when the distinction between private area and the audience became hazy. Therefore, on those intense football nights when everyone's attention was on the trophy and the stars, a well-known chef's appearance, despite his notion that the audience still loved him, was seen as an infringement on someone else's moment. The question for the following chapter then emerges. What awaits at the Champions League 2025 gates, where the lights shine brightest but the coldest for those not on the guest list, if the passion for the stage has surpassed the passion for the kitchen? Salt Bae's reputation as the golden chef that everyone wants has diminished after a spate of incidents, starting with his intrusion into the World Cup 2022 trophy ceremony and continuing with a series of restaurant scandals involving alarming invoices and complaints from former staff members. He was previously surrounded by high society galas, sports superstars, and heads of state, but his celebrity is now cloaked in public weariness and cynicism. Maybe Salt Bae himself isn't aware that the door to his glitzy world is slowly closing. He kept making frequent appearances at important occasions, still drawn to the flash of cameras as though nothing had changed about his illustrious past. And the next bitter moment resulted from this discrepancy between what he believed he still had and how the public truly perceived him. Salt Bae made another appearance at the Champions League after-party in June 2025. However, he was not hugged this time, in contrast to the times when he was greeted with red carpets. A video got viral very fast. Security prevented Salt Bae from going inside the VIP area, which was occupied by athletes and dignitaries. The days when cameras trailed his every salt sprinkle move were long gone. Rather, there was a clumsy scenario where a man who used to command the stage was thrust out in front of the audience. Although social media rarely allows for explanations, he swiftly defended himself by stating that he merely wanted to meet fans and had no intention of breaching boundaries. Memes of the man who was stopped at the entrance went viral on TikTok and Twitter, sparking mockery. The audience saw the blocking as more than just a standard security measure. It represented something different. Not even fame could open doors anymore. He insisted that he was merely there to greet fans, despite reports that he was ejected from the event. The social media allegations that Nusret was expelled are untrue, he stated. There was actually no party going on there. Such an event did not even invite me. I was just walking past when I noticed someone in the rear acting strangely, giving the impression that something had happened. However, the rumor that I was expelled is untrue. My reputation is being attacked here. Headlines like "The Most Embarrassing Fall" were consistently published by international media outlets, including The Sun, Diarioas, and news.com.au. The same publications that had previously included images of him with Beckham, DiCaprio, or Messi suddenly took a different stance, seeing this as unmistakable proof of his waning power. This time, the gap was much more severe, even though Salt Bae may still approach the golden trophy in the 2022 World Cup only to be met with Messi's icy gaze. The VIP door actually slammed shut in his face, and the players turned away. That instance resembled a sour metaphor. Salt Bae, who had previously been a celebrity invited to every opulent feast, was now viewed as an outsider. And that was perhaps worse than any failed bill for a company that thrived on the beauty of the spotlight. In the past, the golden shine of steak was sufficient to cover up all imperfections, but ultimately, it was unable to conceal a single fact. That empire wasn't founded on long-term quality, but rather on a social media viral smash. Once transforming a salt shaker into a worldwide brand, Salt Bae is now a prime illustration of the empty viral phenomena. Something that appears like a straw fire and then disappears when the viewer looks away. However, there is still more to the tale beneath the caustic headlines and disparaging memes. The tale of a poor butcher who, after slowly making his way through the world, drowned in the halo he produced. It might be more than a lesson about wealth, celebrity, or outward glitz. It serves as a reminder that beneath the glamour, there is still merely a flawed human being who is prone to getting carried away and occasionally losing sight of reality. The last query is still unanswered. Was Salt Bae a man caught in a golden light he created for himself, or did he take advantage of the chance from the start? How each of us chooses to interpret this story may hold the answer.